I believe that all good and effective teaching and learning comes down to one thing: relationships. One of the purposes of school for me is socialisation. This is perhaps one of the reasons why teaching and learning online during multiple national pandemic-induced lockdowns was so challenging. School is where we make connections with others, where we see and hear people that are different to us, where we feel and express emotions and see this in others. It's where we make connections with adults and young people that are not family members or family friends. For some of us, it's where we can find ourselves, our interests, purpose, and our tribe. Schools have the capacity to encourage, inspire, and lift up young people and their educators. The very best schools do. These schools do not always have the best exam results, but they are noteworthy by their cultures. Cultures are simple to publish in a prospectus or on a website. They take effort to authentically communicate and embed. The best schools achieve this and see their values as an ongoing journey, not goals to smash. The best schools and their people live cultures of wellness, community, and achievement. They meet their people where they are and lift them up. They have routines, and they are agile. They place the student, their caregivers, and educators at the heart of what they set out to do. They think, and then they design the optimum environment for learning and well-being for all. These whole school cultures are subsequently reflected and experienced in every classroom and sports field. When teachers create cultures of thinking, they provide space and opportunities for their students to grow. Creative problem solving, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration are at the heart of these effective classroom cultures. When teachers use these compass points to drive forward the educational experiences of their students, they become the teacher that their students need. Teachers need to help students become future ready, and this includes being agile in thought, curious, able to convey informed opinions, challenge ideas, and be challenged. To be responsible citizens, students need to understand how to work and get along with other people. They need to understand and recognise their unconscious and conscious biases and assumptions. They need to listen actively and with sensitivity. Traditional approaches to education that include rote learning from predominantly knowledge-rich direct instruction or the memorisation of essays do not prepare students adequately for their futures. Few jobs value encyclopedic knowledge, and many employers now report that they hire for character above all else. This is not to say that knowledge is useless. We need to have knowledge to be able to apply skills. These skills are not taught effectively in silos and are best integrated into the core curriculum that is offered in schools. While it's undeniable that education systems across the world need to evolve, this is not a simple or quick undertaking. With this in mind, it makes sense to integrate with intention the skills students need into existing curriculums. We cannot wait for the behemoth that is the education system to change. It will be too late for today's students. We must act now. It can seem difficult to carve out time in already packed timetables to create opportunities for students to understand and practice the core competencies of creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. While these skills may feature in a number of academic curriculums, there is often precious little time to provide the authentic opportunities students need to practice and develop them to ready themselves for the skills they will need now and in the future. It's the case that the majority of academic courses are content-heavy. This is difficult to change given the exam-driven systems that many schools are led by. It's also the case, however, that while knowledge acquisition is valuable, it's diminishing in importance as employers and international organisations such as the World Economic Forum project the future world of work. In October 2020, the World Economic Forum published the following findings in its Future of Jobs report. Firstly, that critical thinking and problem solving top the list of skills employers believe will grow in prominence in the next 5 years, and that newly emerging are skills in self-management such as active learning, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. It's clear from the projections of the WEF and organisations such as LinkedIn, which in 2019 named creativity as the most important skill in the world, that schools need to pivot their offering in order to ensure their students are ready to survive beyond school. Demands for those able to think creatively will drive the world's insatiable desire and need for innovation. This is all the more significant when we consider the unstoppable force of artificial intelligence. Currently, AI cannot compete with humans when it comes to creative thinking, and so developing creativity among students is going to help them find a more secure and fulfilling place in the world. the WEF placed creativity in the top 3 of the 10 skills you need to thrive in the 4th Industrial Revolution. And it's thought that developing creativity leads to the development of character qualities of curiosity, initiative, persistence or grit, adaptability, leadership, emotional intelligence, and social and cultural awareness. The British Council asked the fundamental question: how do we educate our children to take their place in the economies of the 21st century, given that we can't anticipate what those economies will look like? Their researchers identified creativity and imagination as 2 deep learning skills, which would foster economic and social entrepreneurialism, leading to novel ideas and leadership for action. There are so many interpretations about the term creativity, ranging from it being an adjective to describe someone who's good at art and design, to someone who exaggerates the truth or is even duplicitous, such as a creative accountant, for example. And yet, creativity has been dubbed one of the most important skills for people to have in the 21st century. It's a skill that's in high demand now and will be essential for individuals and organisations to survive in the future. Creative people can solve problems. They can solve problems because they spend time thinking. They're not confident about solving a problem because they know lots of information. They're comfortable with ambiguity and use their imaginations to work through challenges. They revise their ideas. They feel comfortable working within constraints, but accept that they are not on a quest for the one right answer. They have a growth mindset and play Simon Sinek's infinite game. Sinek believes that creativity, leadership, and innovation thrives within an infinite mindset, a mindset that's resilient to thrive in an ever-changing world. For Sinek, finite games like football have known players, fixed rules, and a clear endpoint. Winners and losers are easily identified as a result. In contrast, infinite games are noteworthy by their lack of finish line and definite players. The rules of an infinite game are fluid, and there's not a destination point where the game ends. There are also no winners or losers. This perspective will challenge those that enjoy the strict parameters of a finite game or mindset. But being agile is the route to creative problem solving. In 2018, Google's global staffing lead and senior recruiter Lisa Stern-Haynes stated that the company values applicants who are problem solvers and who have general cognitive ability over role-related knowledge because positions are constantly shifting. Haynes commented on Google Partners podcast that general cognitive ability is really just problem solving. According to Haynes, Google really values collaboration, working well in teams, and navigating ambiguous situations. The idea behind this is that if you're a smart problem solver and you're good at learning, you can figure out pretty much anything that's going to be role-related knowledge on the job. While Google does not dismiss role-related knowledge, it does prioritize problem solving above all other traits, and to be an effective problem solver, individuals must be able to work collaboratively. This all chimes with the World Economic Forum and British Council's indication of the skills required for the future world of work. And yet national school curriculums and some university courses are often so content-heavy and exam-driven that it's difficult for schools and universities to carve out meaningful time to provide opportunities to hone these essential skills. In most traditional teaching and learning, the emphasis is placed on achieving correct answers and responding within a time frame and an examiner-friendly or dictated framework. Teachers with the best of intentions often pose questions to their students with a definite answer in their minds. I've done this in my classroom, but when teachers evaluate their students' abilities and potential in relation to their ability to match the teacher's predetermined answer, they are unwittingly hampering their ability to think. Even when teachers offer think time or wait time, the result can often be the same. Tagging on creative activities to the end of content-driven or exam preparation lessons is not the silver bullet. Creative activities are not time fillers until the end of lesson bell sounds. Creative activities can be incorporated into all lessons using simple teaching strategies that encourage thinking. Teachers need to be mindful of the importance of creativity as an essential skill that their students need. The next step is for teachers to really think about how they could incorporate creative problem solving through their questioning techniques and variation of tasks. Schools need to provide time for teachers to provide genuine and authentic opportunities for creative thought in all subjects. To get to this point, teachers need to think about themselves as creative entities. This means that they need to think about the way they think. It's an old world way of thinking to believe that teaching is the simple delivery of information. Teachers could look at the way that they embrace divergent thinking in their own lives, because the more that they are open to their own imaginations, are comfortable with ambiguity, challenge their assumptions, and are excited by what their students come up with in class discussions and collaborative work, the more they will have a chance of making creativity part of the culture of a school. This will also serve the purpose of paving the way for their students to become lifelong creative thinkers, innovators, and problem solvers. As Albert Einstein famously said, logic will get you from A to Z, imagination will get you everywhere. In tandem with creativity, critical thinking skills need to be prioritised in every classroom, as they provide students with essential life skills that help with, but also go beyond, academic achievement. The following extract is taken from UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres' 2019 message on International Youth Day observed on the 12th of August. He said, "We're facing a learning crisis. Too often, schools are not equipping young people with the skills they need to navigate the technological revolution. Students need not just to learn, but to learn how to learn." Education today should combine knowledge, life skills, and critical thinking. It should include information on sustainability and climate change, and it should advance gender equality, human rights, and a culture of peace. One of the main ideas behind critical thinking is to encourage students to think about their thinking, or to develop their metacognitive skills. In a nutshell, metacognition relates to the concepts of learning how to learn, and actively thinking about thinking. If we do not know as teachers how our students learn, and if students do not how they learn either, it's nigh on impossible to improve learning and teaching. The first step is for students to become aware of the factors that influence their own learning, and then develop a collection of strategies to support their learning. Students need to be taught how to plan, set goals, and adapt to different learning situations. They need to be able to monitor their learning, to actively self-regulate, and evaluate their learning to understand whether it's working for them. Hacker suggests that metacognition is all about students having an awareness of how they learn, an evaluation of their learning needs, generating strategies to meet these needs, and then implementing these strategies. I think of metacognition as self-awareness, and this is such a valuable life skill that it should be front and centre of all education provisions. In the classroom, on the sports field, co-curricular activities, and central to a school's culture. Scriven highlighted the importance of critical thinking as the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and/or evaluating information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. While Angelo points to critical thinking as the intentional application of rational higher-order thinking skills such as analysis, synthesis, problem recognition and problem solving, inference and evaluation. These skills complement but also transcend the learning and teaching of content, and once taught and practiced, they can become the tools upon which students can draw to navigate the world around them. When teachers model explicitly how to think through a task, the impact can be considerable on students who are then able to understand the processes that lead to learning. Schunk goes further and claims that such metacognitive skills are deepened when students model their thought processes and understanding to their peers. This highlights the value of prioritising metacognition for students as it helps them to develop their communication skills. Schroer outlines the processes required to foster and encourage metacognition. Firstly, to slow down, to stop, read, and think about the information. Secondly, to activate prior knowledge. What do you already know? What don't you know? And finally, mental integration, relating main ideas, and using these to construct a theme or conclusion. He comments that students that employ these strategies are more systematic and strategic when solving problems. Dweck and Leggett link metacognition to the development of persistence, self-awareness, and goal setting. They say one of the most salient characteristics of successful learners is their goal orientation. The research backs up the view that when teachers introduce, model, and support specific goal orientations, they afford their students the opportunities to become more successful learners with determined and infinite mindsets. By adopting this as a strategy, we are teaching our students an awareness of themselves as active agents of their learning and allowing them to develop their resilience. When we ask our students to actively think, we're asking them to perform a skill that is not automated. We're asking them to adopt a degree of mental awareness and curiosity. This requires effort. Many students will have learned and adopted automated learning processes that allow fluent decoding of information and the identification of patterns and connections. Others will find this incredibly challenging and will need scaffolding to support this awareness and development of their metacognitive skills. It could be argued that such automated skills are an essential first step in allowing metacognitive skills to develop. The most successful students, not measured by short-term success in class tests, are those that have been exposed to concepts of themselves as learners, the ones that have been taught and believe they can achieve. Some students will believe they are simply intelligent and have a fixed mindset. These students can lack flexibility and become incredibly anxious when others outperform them or they fail a task. Their whole sense of identity is wrapped up in an unwavering acceptance and belief in their innate abilities. Dweck writes extensively on this issue, and I have to say from my own classroom experience, I've witnessed the negative impact a fixed mindset can have on both the perceived most and least able students. High IQ does not correlate directly with effective and developed metacognitive skills. Therefore, metacognition is a general skill that can be taught and can lead to improved education outcomes for all students. Serac et al. Conclude that metacognition is one of the best predictors of academic achievement. Interestingly, the Education Endowment Fund reported in 2018 that the potential impact of the low-cost metacognition and self-regulation approaches is 7 months of additional progress over the course of a year. And as these approaches can be very effective in groups, because students can support each other and make their thinking explicit through instruction, this really is a North Star for any classroom teacher. Predominantly relying on and valuing highly summative performance data as an indicator of ability is deeply flawed and cannot bring about the rates of learning progress that formative assessment can engender for students of all abilities. Summative assessments are limited in value as they indicate attainment in one moment in time. The EEF also points to evidence that suggests that disadvantaged students are less likely to use metacognitive and self-regulatory strategies without being explicitly taught them. Once a teacher models and scaffolds such strategies, students are more likely to use them independently and habitually, enabling them to manage their own learning and overcome challenges in the future. Using such strategies could therefore play a role in closing the disadvantage gap. We know that the skills most in demand for the fourth industrial revolution, towards which we are hurtling at breakneck speed, are critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, and metacognition. Providing time and space for such pursuits should not be regarded as nice to have in education settings. They should be the driving force behind all academic work, as they are with successful project-based learning initiatives. Without these skills driving forward the educational experiences of our young people, we run the risk of knowledge accumulation and standardised testing dominating the 7 years of secondary school and beyond into higher education. That's not to say that having knowledge is redundant. It is to say, however, that the accumulation of knowledge is not sufficient to survive in the future. Where knowledge is taught or learned, it needs to be processed to have a function. Any job or function that can be automated is at risk of being a redundant pursuit for human beings. We have the ability as teachers and parents to cultivate the essential skills that young people need now and will need in the futures in order to survive and thrive. I believe that when we're trying to forge a new way for education, we should look at what we offer as an interconnected system. It would be a limited approach to just focus on creativity or critical thinking or collaboration or communication as a school or classroom teacher. The skills are interchangeable and rely upon each other. In some respects, we cannot have one without considering and practicing the others. It's my view that these 21st century skills should not be taught separately, nor should they be detached from knowledge. In order to create the optimum environment for students to communicate and collaborate with each other and their educators, teachers need to create psychologically safe spaces. These are spaces that encourage and support challenge and risk. They're spaces where everyone is respected, respectful, heard, and included. Classrooms with a culture of psychological safety allow all learners to grow. No one learns effectively through fear. Although one might contend that traditional school systems that are exam-driven are fear-led experiences for many students. Teachers need to be mindful of strategies they can employ to personalise the curriculum they're sharing with their students so that the 21st century skills of creativity, critical thinking, communication and collaboration can be practised with enjoyment and confidence. It's undeniable that high school teachers are busy and have competing priorities, many of which are driven by the academic subjects they teach and the time-sensitive administrative tasks they have to do. This is why I decided to identify strategies and workflows to support teachers and schools. I created an online platform with teaching and learning tutorials along with editable templates to help tackle teacher workload and inject some new ideas into the classroom. The Teaching for Learning Professional Development online course identifies practical steps any teacher can incorporate into their lessons today to model, teach and facilitate creative problem solving, critical thinking, communication and collaboration. This experience and research-informed asynchronous course offers a walkthrough of teaching models and a practical and accessible outline of significant education research. The self-led course is a playbook for teachers looking for ways to begin or refresh their approach to teaching and learning. By adopting some or all of these strategies, teachers can be assured they are equipping their students with the skills they need now and in the future. If you're interested in improving teaching and learning in your classrooms, you can access the course today via the link below. You can also find me on LinkedIn, where I post regularly about education and write a monthly teaching and learning newsletter. Join as a free subscriber to find out more. Thanks for watching.